Okay, good morning and welcome to Family Law Assistance. My name is Michaela and I'm the co-founder of Family Law Assistance. We help you represent yourself in court, getting you the result without the hefty price tag. I am joined today by one of our franchisees, Elaine.
Hello!
Amazing. And today we are going to be talking about the court kit. How do I think these things up? I don't know, but it's catchy. I'm going with it. Actually, this was Elaine's idea. Can we just say,
Yes.
shout, Elaine, this was your idea, okay? Because it's the thing that people miss, right? When you go to court, it's people think of the documentation and what needs to happen and the strategy and all that's really well and good. But we're taking it back to basics this morning, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, we say it time and time again, the magic's in the prep. The magic happens before. Right. But actually, I think for a lot of our clients, it's such a huge thing for them to think about, what do I need to do? And, we come along and we bring our advice. So that's what we're going to do today, is try and help and support you with kind of all the sort of things that you can try and do something about, just to alleviate some of the build up.
So Elaine prepared a list, which I've cribbed. And so the first thing is notification of the hearing. Finding out, this sounds, some of this is going to sound super obvious.
Yeah.
We're not at home to Captain Cock-Up, are we, Elaine? So the first thing is find out where the court is. Elaine.
Yeah. Now you can have a magistrate's court, a family court, a county court. You can have all sorts of these different courts, and often they are actually quite close to each other. But you really need to have a look at your paperwork. You need to know the case number. You need to know the time. You need to know the date, and you need to know the venue. That's really important. Give yourself plenty of time as well for actually going and finding that. It might be that you go a week before just to go and have a look at it. And it's not uncommon for family courts to be extremely busy, and they use an overflow court. So, for example, Ipswich does that. So, yes, you may go to the family court that Google Maps told you to go to, but you're actually being asked to walk a further, 500 metres to find another building where your case will be heard.
And spoiler alert, there are quite a few. I can think of this Worcester court that does that. Oxford does that, where there's like they may be walking distance, but it's still an arsing if you're already stressed out. So check your paperwork, check the actual address of the paper. It's one of the things, isn't it, Elaine, that we sort of get clients to do, send over, where is the court? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Check the address. So one of my pro tips is at the bottom of your court order, it actually puts the address. And as Elaine says, that brings us nicely. Plenty of time. Sorry, Elaine.
Yeah. Just also as well, there's a website, the Justice website as well, that has a map facility on it that gives you things like the parking information, but it also gives you accessibility requirements as well, because you might have additional needs, or a family member might be coming to support you and waiting outside. So that really helps with all that information. That covers all those courts that you might be invited to.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Okay, number 2, prepare lots of time to get there.
Can't stress that enough. Cannot stress that enough. It's not uncommon for me to come down the night before in order to do that. Yeah, Michaela, you do it too, don't you? I want to be as fresh-eyed as I can for you, and I don't want to put myself through that. So yeah, you just got to give yourself lots of time. Now, the letters might suggest how long the court hearing will be for, and it might suggest how early you come for the actual hearing as well. But we'll guide you, we'll meet you beforehand, we'll get all that arranged.
Because I think when it comes to lots of time, I don't know about you, Elaine, but I have, where I live, I have to literally cross mountain ranges to get to you guys. And it always astonishes me how I've literally traversed mountain ranges, got there, and my guy that's down the road is late for his own child court hearing.
Michaela, you yourself say you are early for everything.
I am.
That's your thing.
Somebody that I once know said to me, I think I was going to Reading Court, and I was there super early, and he went, How are you getting there? You like are you leaving that early because you're tunneling your way to the courtroom? But irrespective of that, having lots of time, because part of that timing is getting, I know it sounds daft, but car parking. Find out where the nearest car parking is.
Yeah.
Change for the car park.
Or apps, use your apps, but check it out. And again, the Justice website, that's got some handy info. Or just go and have a look. It will save you an awful lot of stress.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, and now I'm going to come to something that's a little controversial, okay? And that's the people that you bring to support you, because this can be a help or a hindrance, can't it, Elaine?
Yes, definitely. There are different hoops to get into the court. So don't kind of assume that you can turn up with your tribe and that you can all get in. That's probably the first point that I would make. What are their plans going to be whilst you're in that court hearing, focusing on the really important things whilst you represent yourself? So it's an obvious point, but you do actually see it, Michaela, don't you? You see a lot of family members waiting on walls outside. Could be cold and wet.
And not just the practicalities of like where are people, because some courts are better than others. Some courts, like if you're in Hogwarts, the Royal Courts of Justice, is quite big, and there's plenty of rooms and stuff. But if you're in, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of a really crappy court that's got like no room. Where was I in the other? Coventry courts.
Or an unfriendly court, Michaela. They might have lots of room, but they're just very brusque to everyone who walks in.
Yeah. Not speaking from personal experience.
We should name and shame.
Right? That's a whole different life. That would be hilarious. That would be the kind of life that after a few drinks, we should go on here and go.
Our top 10 courts.
Would be barred, would absolutely be barred. But having family members can be either a help or hindrance, so depending. So here's the thing about family. I've said this quite a bit, and Elaine, you kind of backed me up, because one of the last court hearings you went to, people brought family, and that can be fine, but sometimes it can't, because family are so invested, aren't they? Yes. And they're also quite emotional.
Yes. Now, I mean, there are lots of seating areas and there are lots of solutions for that, but courts present differently in how friendly they are in accommodating you. Now, obviously, we'll talk about special measures. If you're a person that feels intimidated by the other side and you're making lots of allegations, that's a completely different matter. What I'm talking about is just turning up with, perhaps your partner, your new partner, or a friend that is clearly very supportive to one parent rather than the other. And it really is very hit and miss in each court. So you can find yourself within sort of eye line of the other person. I will do my best to try and get you a room so that we can try and sort of minimise all of that. But it's very hit and miss with courts.
Yeah, I totally agree, because you're so right. That comes, though, down to timing. Now, because I'm early for everything, I will tend to try and bagsy a room, because it's so much nicer if you can get a room. But that kind of a life, it's so much easier.
It makes such a difference. One of my favourite courts is Bristol, for that matter. So friendly, so accommodating, lots of rooms.
Yeah, I think, and one of my other faves, so another court that's a bit like Bristol is Manchester Court. Manchester Court is really big, it's modern, it's got lots of consult rooms. We are kind of naming and shaming here, but Romford Court, oh my God, Romford Court. I remember going to Romford Court the first time, and I asked, because I didn't know where, it was my very first time going to Romford Court, I asked, where's Romford Court? Nobody knew where Romford Court was.
No.
I see their point, because by the time I got to Romford Court, I'm like, is this it? And the people were sitting in like a really dodgy GP surgery. There was, you had X's hiding behind pillars, because that's the only thing that kind of separated them. Very strange.
Yeah. You might find that there's a snack machine there. You might find that there's a water fountain. But let's back up a little bit, Michaela. Let's talk about actually when you're at outside the court building. What are you going to expect? What's going to happen when you sort of get there?
Yeah. Yeah. So talk about, Elaine, you talk about security.
Yeah, now security is pretty much the same no matter which court you go to. But it's like going through airport security. So there's usually some sort of device or a metal arch where they're going to make sure that you're not carrying, and I genuinely mean this, to make sure that you're not carrying weapons. I had a really good chat with a guy, the security guy at Warwick, and he told me the hundreds of knives that they had confiscated with people going into court. It's done with a genuine purpose, and unfortunately there are all sorts of individuals there that come into a court situation, so it's to keep us all safe. But it is like walking through an airport security system. So one of my top tips for that is, and I tend to do this myself, I've got my wonderful, I love my work bag. I empty it. I take the minimum in it because I don't want him poking all the way through all my bits and pieces. But also I want to get through quickly. So, you go through and, things that you might put in your bag is pens. If you bring in some water with you, they'll ask you to sip it usually to prove that it's not something that's, I don't know, poisonous or dangerous or whatever. Bring your phone, but, switch it off. Put some change in there, maybe for your parking. A snack if you need it. I don't know, maybe you don't want the chocolate machines or whatever. It might be something that you want. And your paperwork as well. So, just try and minimise what you bring in with you.
Yeah, I think that's a pro tip that I should use, because every time I go through security, I tend to forget this,
Yeah.
And every time I walk through, and I am that person that cracks the same joke to the security guard every time. I'll say to the security guard, "Oh, well, I think you've seen the bottom of that bag more often than I have," and then I laugh at my own joke because I'm that person.
Again, very hit and miss. Some security guys, my goodness, and with security women, they can be this most helpful. They really can. If you arrive there and you're not sure if your case has been listed there, they are, can be so helpful. They can guide you towards the reception, the ushers. They might even take your case number and make a phone call for you. I've even had one security lady who let me into the court before the 9 o'clock opening time because it was cold, and she wanted to make sure that that I was in the right place, etc., for the hearing. So they're all a mixed bunch, but they do a very important job.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. So you're talking about the things that you have with you, okay? Never mind all the crap that I will bring, but for our people that go to family court, let's talk essentials, okay?
Yes.
Pens. What else?
Paperwork. You will be asked to bring your bundle along, and we'll go through what you need and help you with that, how many copies, etc. But please do not try to look at it on your phone, because you're literally like this.
Yeah. Or
that's not useful to me either, because I don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah. Now, of course, we are talking about in-person hearings, but Elaine, you're absolutely right. All the people that turn up, and I've said to them, make sure you bring copies of X, Y, and Z. Either it's your statement or a copy of our CV. And you get there and you go, so you've got the copies then, and they look at you and go, copies? What copies? And you're there thinking, yeah. So make sure the paperwork.
I also download it on my laptop sometimes, just in case. So that comes in my trusty work bag, in case I need to have that as well. And what else was I going to think about?
Because talking about paperwork, admin departments in courts, spoiler alert, are awful. So just because they've got, if you say to me or Elaine, I've emailed the paperwork in, okay, unless you've harangued the court and said, okay, have you got the paperwork? And important question, is that paperwork in front of the judge?
Yes. And also, actually, Michaela, you know, I lose count how many times it happens as well, where you go in, you present to the reception, and they'll say, "And who are you? Have you sent in your application?" And you look at your client, "Have you sent it in?" I always bring copies of that again as well. Sometimes we have to double up on the paper because, as you say, the admin service, it's just not dynamic enough for them to look at it live. It's like a time lag, isn't it, for them? So yes, it may have all been done correctly by the client, but I always bring it just in case, because, you know, there's often their own version of a form, my CV, etc., and they bring that in as well. So yes, reception's usually quite helpful. The ushers are quite helpful. The ushers want to know your name and what you look like, because when you do get called, they're going to come and find you. They're going to come up to you and say, "It's time now."
Yeah. And whilst we're talking of who's who in court, you will hand your paperwork in to the usher. Now, guys and girls, you cannot miss the court usher. They're the ones wandering around the court in the big, great big flappy black coat. Can't miss them.
And you know, they are such friendly people. I once knew an usher who was actually a poacher.
No way.
And his colleagues always used to threaten to dob him into the circuit judge every Friday. They would have a soup day. They'd have a soup lunch on a Friday because the circuit judge would have finished his week's work, and it was a nice way to say goodbye to them. Every Friday, they used to tease him and say they were going to tell the judge he was a poacher, because he was. He used to bring in freebies. They are really nice, down-to-earth people, you know, and yes, they do walk around with the black gown on, but they really are just like you and I.
But I think it's quite, you know, if in terms of who's who, you can't not spot the usher. You're like, black cape, oh, usher, brilliant.
Yeah. So what we're going to go on to next then, we've covered going in, we've covered the paperwork, we've covered sitting in there. What we're going to do next?
Let's talk about one of the things that you will notice, if anyone that's never been to family court before, let's talk about the language, because people who are in court, me and Elaine spend a lot of our time almost translating what's really going on in the courtroom. You'll notice that etiquette is a massive thing in court. The language is it can come across as quite antiquated. I always say this, that, you know, it kind of looks like English, it kind of feels like English, but it definitely doesn't sound like English, you know. And you'll hear things like from other legal professionals, and I have to be honest, sometimes I get a little, because I've done this for such a long time, you know, I humbly apologize. You don't just apologize in court, you humbly apologize, you know, or you'll humbly submit. And Joe Average is looking around going, am I in some kind of period drama or something?
Yeah. I mean, it's that kind of old story about, you know, if you address the judge incorrectly, he might turn around and say, "I can't hear you." He can hear you. He can hear you. He's just trying to be polite. I can't hear you. Right, I'm going to throw this at you, Michaela. Tell us what all the etiquette is.
Okay, so you'll often feel like it's quite antiquated English, you know. So there's a certain amount of pomp and ceremony involved in family court. Traditionally, I think there's more pomp actually in a magistrate's court. Yes. I don't know quite why, right? Yeah. So you'll often find, so when you walk into a courtroom, the first thing that if you're in front of a bench of magistrates or a judge, you rise. Okay. You will notice that, like, I keep banging on about the language because it's the thing that upsets a lot of people. It's the thing that, and just I suppose it's in any profession, you have their own jargon, their own lingo, their own way of doing things, but most of the time it feels really odd. If you're not used to it, it feels odd.
We just stop you there, because the ushers, before you go into the court hearing, you should know who this case is going to be heard in front of. You will know what level they're at, for example, what their role is, whether it's in front of the magistrates or in front of a judge. You'll definitely know that. I really wish they'd introduce themselves, because you go in and you introduce yourself, you give them a nod, you know, the clerk will say who's who. But I wish they would introduce themselves. It would make them so much more personable, but maybe that's maybe that's the point, is that they don't want to be. But the other thing sorry, Michaela, the other thing I wanted to point out was as well is that a magistrate's not actually legally qualified. They're a volunteer. They do this for free. So I don't mind giving them a bit of pomp because they are doing it in their spare time.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because people will have very different views on this. So 70% of all cases in England and Wales are now heard in front of magistrates. And you'll know they're in front of magistrates because there's usually 3 of them. They're normally sat next to each other with a legal advisor in front of them. Now, here's the thing, okay? You refer to the group of magistrate as your worships. Okay, so there's that. The magistrates, although they're not legally qualified, they make orders.
Yes.
The legal advisor, actually, who cannot make orders because they're the legal advisors, they're the ones that are legally qualified. And actually, they hold the power in that room. Because if the magistrates, bearing in mind they're not legally qualified, decide to go upon their own frolic and order something ridiculous, you've got the legal advisor that sort of politely clears their throat and advises them, Your worships, may I advise that this might be a better alternative? And you can see, you can almost sometimes, I've seen some humdingers that magistrates have made, that I've had to try and avoid face planting the desk, which in any other circumstance I possibly would. And the legal advisor subtly and diplomatically. Then you've got judges. Most judges are usually most judges are district judges, and they're either sir or madam. High court judges are your honour or ma'am.
So, Michaela, remind us about when you actually sit up and sit down as well. Right. So, when they come in and out and what you do, because you kind of all look at each other and go, well, who's doing what then?
So normally at this point, I'm normally pulling my guy up and sitting him down and pulling him up again and sit down. So if anyone's ever been to a C of E church service, it can feel a bit like that. And actually, I keep saying this, but there's possibly more pomp, I think, with magistrates than there are with judges, even high court judges, actually.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So when you go into a front of, I'm going to talk about magistrates because they're the more, I'd say that they're the more pomp required, I'd say. So when you walk in, you stand, you rise, and then when they sit down, you sit down. And then as you leave, when they've adjourned the matter, you get up and you bow. And in fact, the tradition, I know, for your average Joe person on the streets who's just coming in to sort out their arrangements with their children, they find themselves sitting, bowing, standing. What am I doing? So the protocol is you go into, and actually you should be doing this for whomever you're in front of. I certainly do. Okay, I'll share a story in a second. But you're supposed to stand up when they rise. You bow your head and you sit down. And when they adjourn the case, you rise, you bow, and you leave. And I remember my little story. I remember being in front of magistrates who were particularly ill-advised on this one day. And they made some ridiculous order. Anyway, they kicked us out of the courtroom. And I remember bowing quite dramatically. It was a proper theatrical as I left the court building. I mean,
Michaela, that's a very confident, bold thing to do.
It's amazing I didn't get kicked out, to be honest. But
and anyway. There we are. I mean, we really, we do our absolute best to make sure that our clients are calm, that they're not getting shouty, that they're not doing things that are inappropriate. You set the tone there, Michaela, didn't you?
I know. I was going to try and justify it, but I was like, no, I can't justify that. But that is a protocol, and I'm going to keep banging on about the language. High court judges, they tend to, I don't know if it's a class thing or what, I don't know, but the high court judges tend to be more, I'd say, more down to earth. I mean, I tend to get more stuff. Magistrates tend to pontificate a lot more. Judges will always get you kicked out at 4 o'clock because 4 o'clock we're off now.
Yes.
Whereas I've been in front of magistrates till 9 o'clock at night. So there's that. Finally, one of the things that I thought was lovely, Elaine, that you put on your list, okay, is that when all of that is over, because we've done our bit, you know, part of this toolkit is so that you do your bit to help me help you.
Yes, yeah. I'm going to make this into a list. I'm going to turn this into something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, to help them.
And I think finally, like you said, Elaine, give yourself a pat on the back, because this is not real life, is it?
No, it's not. You know, I mean, you will come out as the client, and your chest will be out here because, you know, basically at the end of the day, you did it. You represented yourself. And, you know, that is absolutely incredible. Make some time for that. Don't think, oh, parking's running out. You'll probably want a debrief. You know, if I'm with you, I've made time for that. I've made time so that I can, you know, get you a coffee and we can talk about it and talk about what the next steps are. Because once you kind of come down from that little bit, it might be even in the next few days, but it will be, oh, and then what? And then what? But, you know, I'll have my notes. I want to send them to, you know, you, the client, as well. But also I just want to check how you feel as well at the end of it, and both of us have a bit of a debrief. And you know, and I'm always so impressed. Some of the people that I've been with have been, you know, they've had their challenges and they've absolutely excelled. In that moment they have excelled and they've become very focused, and I'm very proud of them for that.
Yeah, I absolutely 110% echo what you said, because you know what, I don't give a shit whether you're represented or not. Going through that anyway and having to, because it is kind of a minefield. Never mind all the preparation, the paperwork, the strategizing, the emotions that go with it. When you're physically at court, that can seem a bit a lot. So going through that in any event is a thing. And I know that certainly here at Family Law Assistance, like Elaine says, you know, right beside you. Me and Elaine personally don't tend to go into too much detail because we know you, and we know that you will feel that sense of relief, whether it's however it's gone, whether it's gone great, whether it's gone not so great, you will have that sense of relief. So give yourself that round of applause that you did it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when you get that surge of adrenaline, because that's what's got you through that hearing, you can have quite a slump in your energy level. So the fact that your family did come and wait outside the building, or, you know, they're waiting, your little tribe that, you know, want to be there to support you, that's a fantastic time for them to really sort of scoop you up, take you for coffee, rally round, you know, help you out for the rest of the day, because your energy levels will probably be quite low. And I suppose my final bit actually, Michaela, is childcare. It's sorting out childcare. Don't think that you can turn up with children. You know, if your excuse is that you couldn't go to court, or you wanted a virtual hearing because of your childcare, people can take quite a dim view of that. You're not prioritising something that's extremely serious. So, you know, get your childcare sorted out and allow time for afterwards as well, so that you can have that opportunity just to decompress, just to sort of process it through.
Brilliant. I think that kind of covers it. Elaine has really helpfully. Elaine, you couldn't get anyone that's more by your side. Okay. Elaine has done it and literally got the court order. Okay. And Elaine, of course, has hopefully put down her email address. So get a notepad and pen.
There we go. I'm going the wrong way. Here it is. It's Elaine at Family Law Assistance. I'm going the wrong way here. Elaine at familylawAssistance.co.uk.
Honestly, guys, we haven't been drinking. It's way too early for that. Seriously, we should do an evening live where we have a bit of a family law assistance kind of knees up and just spill the real tea.
Nice. Yeah, like in 2023. January one. That would be lovely.
Yeah. Exactly. Right, guys, I hope you found that really useful. Drop some comments down below. If you're watching this on replay, drop comments down below. And if you want Elaine at your hearing, book her quick, okay? Because I know all the family assistants are getting booked up quick. So if you need her, grab her now. Right, guys, have an amazing rest of your day. We'll check you later.
Bye.